This video is about how to get the best rates when you're traveling on currency exchange, when you exchange money, or you use a credit card, or you use a debit card at an ATM. We start off here at JFK Airport in New York City, and on the left is a currency exchange in the terminal. And it is the only currency exchange, and see what you notice about it that looks different from other currency exchanges that you usually see. Do you notice that? No? Well, I'm going to have another look at it. But when you are in an airport, you know you're getting the worst rates because of the high rent and that you're a captive audience. Matter of fact, this place here, there is no other competition. There's another currency exchange, but it's the same company. So you have nowhere to go except for their currency exchange. So what I'm asking you to look for is, did you notice that they don't show their currency exchange rates listed anywhere on their monitors or board or anything like that? Matter of fact, all they show on their monitors is a sign saying great deals on currency here, don't miss out, and things like the currency symbols of the euro and the dollar and whatever. So they don't even show you what their rates are. That's the first bad sign anywhere you go. If they don't show their rates, it's probably because they're really bad rates. So you probably want to skip it. Now, I'm not trying to single out Travelex. I'm sure they pay a lot of rent there in that terminal, and so their rates are not going to be that great. Just like the fact that you pay $3 for a small bottle of water or $6 for a slice of pizza in this terminal, because you're kind of a captive audience and they have high rents, so they have to make up for that somehow. So they do that by charging you exorbitant rates usually. So how do you exchange money without getting really bad rates? Well, first of all, make sure you know what the rates are in the country that you're in. So, for instance, I went to Poland and Russia, so I was exchanging dollars into zlotys. And at the time, the zloty was about 3.65 zlotys for every US dollar. So a rule of thumb is figure out what, say, $100 is in that currency you're trying to exchange and go from there. So for instance, 100 US dollars should get me about 365 zlotys. So just go shop around and try to go to places that aren't really high rent districts. Don't go to the place that's on the corner that has a lot of foot traffic. Go around the corner and see the smaller places. They usually have better rates. Also, don't go just by the published rates, because one, they publish rates that are usually confusing. Sometimes they only post one number and it looks like a good number, but it's actually the offer and not the bid in terms of what you're going to get when you give them dollars for that currency. So this is where it gets confusing, and this is where a lot of people, they just give the money and hope that they get something good in return. You shouldn't do that. What you should do is know what you should get for your $100. Just look at Bloomberg or something like that to find out what the exchange rate is on that day and know what you should get that day. So for $100, I should get 365 zlotys. So you go shop around and ask them, for $100, how much will I get in return in zlotys? And the reason you ask that is because they also play games with, they give you either a good rate, but then they charge you some commission, or they'll have a big sign saying no commissions charged, but they give you a horrible rate. So don't listen to what they say about commissions or their rates or whatever. Just say, if I give you $100, how many zlotys will I get back? And once you know that, you'll know what kind of percentage commission you're really paying. So, for instance, here in Krakow, Poland, at the train station, which I didn't think I was going to get a really good rate, just because, again, it's train station, they probably pay higher rent, but I actually got a decent rate, and so I went for it as soon as I got off the train. I was going to wait until I got to town, but I needed some cash, so I went there and I asked them, and they gave me 364 zlotys, and the current exchange rate was 372. So if you divide 364 divided by 372, you get 0.978, and subtract that from 1 and you get 2.2%. So basically I paid 2.2% worse than the international rate, which is not terrible. I try to aim for like 1% usually, which is, a dollar per hundred. So in this case I paid 220 per hundred, which is not terrible. So that's something to think about. But a lot of these other places, when I went walking around the old town later on, um, there's a lot of exchange places. They all have big signs and saying no commission or great rates or this and that. And so I went into some of them and asked them what I would get per $100. And some of them were really horrible and some of them were pretty good. And the difference is that you just have to ask. One really good rate could be 2 stores down from one really horrible rate. So, like I said, the rate was about 365, 370. Some of them were offering to give me 320 or 330. One crazy guy even offered me 240. Okay, if you do the math on that, 240 divided by say 365, that's about a 35% loss on your money. So, I went from paying 2.2% at the train station to potentially losing 35% on my money at some of these places in the old town in Krakow. And it's not just Krakow, it's every place. There's wide ranges of how much they charge. So you really got to shop around and know your numbers, and know what the going rate is. I was in Sweden and there weren't many exchange places, and I went to one and the girl wrote down what I was going to get, and I did the math and it was over 20% loss on my money just to exchange money. So um, that's why when you travel you should have 3 forms of payment, and that's what I do to try to diversify and just in case of problems. So what I do is I have cash that I exchange for money if there's good exchange rates around. I have a credit card that gives me cash back, but also gives me really good exchange rates when they do the translation from zlotys to dollars or euros to dollars or whatever. And then I also have an ATM debit card that I use if I want to get cash, or I ran out of cash, or I want to get cash because the currency rates around town are really bad. So it really depends on the country. Some countries have a lot of currency exchange places and have real competitive rates, and some countries don't have a lot and have really awful rates. So in that case, I would use my debit card and go get cash that way. So to sum up for exchanging money for the local currency, uh, don't buy it in the airport. Don't buy it on the main street. Try to shop around, know what the currency rate is and what you should get for a unit of money like $100, and then just divide what they're giving you by the current rate to figure out the percentage that you're paying. And if you're paying if you're paying too much, then maybe you might want to consider not exchanging money and instead using your credit card or your debit card to get cash. Now, for credit cards, what I use is the Fidelity Visa Cashback card, and I don't get any money from any of these companies that I mentioned in this video. It's just what works best for me and what I found to be that gave me the best rates. So that card is a no-fee card. It gives me 2% cash back on everything I buy, and their exchange rates are about 1% of the international rate. So if I spend $100, when they translate it, I lose about 1%, which is fine. They got to make money. So 1% is like my benchmark. So if the cash exchanges are not like 1%, then I'll use a credit card. Or if I'm worried about using a credit card in that country, like maybe someplace like Brazil or something where there's a lot of skimmers that may steal your number, then maybe I'll go and use a debit card to get cash out and try to use cash every place. For getting cash out, I recommend the Charles Schwab bank account, and the reason is that one, they give you really good rates, also like in the around 1% kind of rate, from what I've seen. And they also refund any ATM fees that you're charged by any of these overseas banks. So that's really good because some of them can charge, 3, 4, 5, or even more dollars. For instance, in St. Petersburg, Russia, I went to a Citibank and took out 10,000 rubles, which is about $150. And right on the receipt, it said that they're charging me 300 rubles to do this. And that's about $4.50 just to take out $150. So that's like 3% fee right there, not even including the international exchange rates. So when I got home at the end of my statement at the end of the month, sure enough, there's a credit for like $4.59, a refund of ATM fees. So that's one of the reasons why I really like the Charles Schwab card. But again, you have to have a Charles Schwab bank account to have that, maybe even a brokerage account, I'm not sure, but I have both. So that's why I use that. Now, these cards aren't the only ones you can use. For instance, there's other cashback credit cards. There's a lot of them, Capital One, American Express. So you have to pick what's right for you. Like, for instance, a friend of mine has a big family and he spends a lot on groceries a year. So he has 6% cash back on American Express, and he pays $100 a year fee for this card. Well, it works out for him because he gets back like $600 a year in cash back and only pays out $100. For me, I live by myself. I don't pay a lot for groceries. I don't spend that much. So a 2% cash back is good for me. It goes right into my Fidelity brokerage account, and there's no fees. So that works for me. It might not work for you. It might, something else might work for you better. But in terms of the debit cards, in terms of getting cash out of ATMs worldwide, the Schwab is pretty much the gold standard. Everywhere I read, most travelers know about it, and they use that because of the refunded ATM fees. So I don't know if you know of an alternative that's as good or better. Leave it in the comments, but as far as I know, that's the best one you can get. So thank you for watching my video, and subscribe if you haven't already, or give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you don't like this video. Thanks.